Hi, students. Good evening. I hope you all revised the past session on the individuals. Now you got to know about how the form 1040 looks. At the same time, what are the filing status available under US tax return. So we covered now filing status. Now we are going to enter into a new topic which is dependency rules. This will be linked when we are performing the tax calculation. So that time you will come to know what are the connection between the dependency rules and filing status and the details. Now I am explaining each topic in detail so that we can apply the logic while doing the form 1040. So now I am going to start on the dependency rules. So there are different rules are applicable for dependency to define he is a dependent or not. So before going to that part, there are three conditions which are like applicable. If that satisfied, then we will go and check whether he is a dependent or not based on the another criteria. Now that three conditions I am going to tell to get enter into the dependent part. Okay, so the first condition, first you should be a dependent. To claim it as a dependent, you should not be a independent. So independent, what does that mean? So that means you should not claim any return or you should not file any return as a independent in the previous returns are the current returns. So nowhere you should file the return, then you cannot claim you as a dependent. So you should be independent in that part. So you cannot be part to the dependent. That is the first condition. You should not be. Independent is not eligible. Next point. In case of MFJ, people who are filing MFJ, those returns, even though they filed MFJ return, can be part of dependent if they filing that MFJ only for the purpose of claiming refund. So the first point I told, like no one should file the return on their own, then they will become as independent. So they should not be part of dependent. So that is the first point. Second point, if you file any joint return, so that is also you will fall into the independent category. But there is an exception when you are claiming that MFJ only for the purpose of refund, then you can be part of dependent. Third condition, the dependent must be a citizen of US. US, or else they can be resident of US, Canada, and Mexico. Anyone can be part of the dependents. If someone is going to be Indian citizen, you no need to apply any conditions because he is not a US citizen or a resident of US or Canada or Mexico. So we can treat them as a not eligible for dependent category. First, these three main conditions are important. Once a person satisfied these any one of these conditions, then he will enter into the category of QC or QR. So what does that mean? QC or QR. Similar to how we defined here in the above filing status, who is a HOH, who is a surviving spouse, as well as who is a MFJ. There are some conditions a person should treat as a QC or QR. So that we are going to discuss now. What is meant to by QC? That means QC. QC means qualifying child. Qualified child. So the conditions under qualified child should be, you don't go with the name, it represents only child, but the thing here, it's going to be child as well as the relatives that can be part of under this category. So the first one is, you can treat the first category is as close relative, can be part of qualified child. Second one, the only condition here to define a close relatives, we have it, but the age is matter. The age should not be greater than taxpayer. So always should be less than taxpayer's age. That is main. So that means he should be younger. So to define someone as qualified child, he should be younger to the taxpayer and he should be close relatives. That close relatives comes like child as well as any relatives as part of it. So moving to the second condition, which is age. You have some close relative, thereafter we need to check on the age aspect as well, then only we will call them as a qualified child. So the age condition is like, if someone is less than 19 years old or disabled, disabled. So any case like he is less than 19 years or disabled, in that case you can be qualified as qualified child. If someone is greater than less than 24 years, even in that case they can be part of qualified child if they pursue student. How you define someone as a student? He should be registered for any course more than 5 months enrollment in the tax year. So the age condition less than 19 years or disabled person, you don't need to satisfy any other condition. So he can be part of qualified child. If someone is less than 24 years, then you need to check on the his enrollment for the any student course. So that course should be more than 5 months. Then they can be part of qualified child. The third condition is he should stay with the taxpayer for more than 6 months. The residence should be more than 6 months. Fourth condition, support test. Support test should not be qualified. That is the main, so that I can call it as no support test. So what is this support test? If a person, if an individual person, whatever QC, is he able to spend more than 50% of his expenditure, then he should not be qualified as a qualified child. So support test, he should, no support test should be qualified. So in that case, more than 50% of the expenditure should be borne by dependent for his expense. So once a person satisfies these conditions, then he is eligible as qualified child and we can claim him as a dependent. So as per these rules, if you see, if someone is not a US citizen, then you no need to apply any of these conditions. You can directly show it as he is not dependent. If someone is eligible as US citizen and he is something like independent and is not filing any return as independent, and if he is filing also, it should be like claiming for the refund. So in that case you have to go further and check on whether he is satisfied for the QC or QR. So once the preliminary three conditions are satisfied, then only you have to check for the QC or QR. So in our case QC, there are four additional conditions, those I represented here. So I think everyone is able to follow the conditions. If anyone has doubts, you can raise it in the chat. I will respond back. Okay. When I'm saying it with the conditions or these points may be confusing. Once we do this MCQs, we will get to know, and application of the knowledge also improves. So we will do definitely MCQs out of this part. Then we will come to know about the more understanding of the topic. Okay. So qualified child, now I defined and these are the conditions. For your reference at the end, I will provide a table as well, not only for qualified child or qualified relative, along with the HOHS surviving spouse, which we discussed in the yesterday's class. So we can go with the table and define whether someone is qualified or not. And remembering purpose also, it will be very helpful. Okay. So now I am moving on to the qualified relative. It's nothing but qualified relative is nothing but QR. What are the conditions for it? I will. There is no condition on the age limit here, so that is not required. Income is the main condition. How much should be the income for that person to be make it as dependent under qualified rules? That means income should be less than $4,400. If someone is earning more than this, then he is not a dependent. It should not be part of qualified relative. So this is first condition. Income should be less than 4,400. And moving on to the second condition, which is support test. Here the support test means more than 50% of the expenditure should borne by taxpayer. In the above case, more than 50% should be borne by dependent. In that case, if he's satisfied, then he is not a dependent. So if it is confusing, I will make here as shouldn't be borne by. In qualified relatives, what is the support condition means more than 50% of the expenditure should borne by taxpayer, then only taxpayer. Okay. The third condition is going to be relative. So, if someone is relative and satisfied the above conditions, then he can be called it as a qualified relative. There is a chance non-relative also can qualify as a qualified relative when that non-relative is stay. with you, with the taxpayer for entire year. So that means the stay condition, residence condition is not applicable for relative. It's only applicable only if someone is a non-relative. These are the three conditions which are to be followed for the qualified relative. So I will make a table and provide you at the end of the class. You can go through it once. So now we covered on the qualified relative as well as qualified child. Here we are saying about support test. So we have to see what are the support to calculate what that support what are the inclusion, what are the exclusion. There is a some list. I will tell some examples like if someone is providing food, shelter, clothing, medical, education and vacation, these and all part of supporting. So you have to calculate the total amount, and out of the 50% who is born, that is mainly qualifying for the dependent. So, apart from this food shelter, we have something like welfare benefits, social security benefits, and something medical insurance, and all this provided for that calendar year or tax year. Whatever tax year is there, for that if is providing, then we can make it as support. The total amount we have to calculate one by one. What are the exclusion? If someone is paying the food, shelter, or something based on the arrears, then that is not eligible. So this you can go through the material, then you will come to know what are the inclusion exclusions. Now I given some examples. So that is more, when you do more questions, you will come to know what is exactly to be included or not. This is only for the purpose to calculate the support test. Okay. Now we covered about the dependency rules. In this dependency rules, we have two categories: qualified child and qualified relative. The same thing I explained with the conditions here. Now I am going on to the marriage annulment. This is a different topic. Now I am moving to the different topic, which is marriage annulment. We know about divorce, we know about separation, we know about marriage. What is this called? Annulment. Marriage annulment. It's something like cancellation of marriage. Whatever the marriage they undertake, we are not going to treat as a marriage. That based on the based on the court law or some, based on the definition of the marriage, if that is not satisfying someone, it is going to be cancel that marriage, then we will call it as a cancellation. So this is not a divorce, this is not a separation, it's completely an annulment. So in that case, what are the laws or what are the changes we are going to do in our case? Let's see. So, same condition for marriage, it's like void ab initio from the beginning. If you're climbing for past 3 years, you are a married filing individuals. So that 3 years or 5 years, how many years you are filed as marriage filing separately or marriage filing jointly. This is going to be cancelled. You have to revise all the returns and make it as a single or HOH if the cancellation of the marriage is happened. So how many years you can go and revise? As per the law, it is only allow only for the past 3 years. So you can revise the returns only for the past 3 years. This is one point. And the second point, you should not treat this as a marriage. So the individual will not fall any of the category of marriage filing individually or marriage filing separately. So annulment, marriage annulment is something like cancellation. For your reference, it's something like cancellation. So what are the returns they filed previously, it's going to be annulled. You have to revise the returns and submit it back. So the revision is possible as per the law only for past 3 years. Revision is possible. This is called marriage annulment. Now I am going on to the divorced case. In case of divorced, if someone is divorced, what are the status is going to be taken for the kid? There are some conditions to satisfy. Based on that, we will define someone who is like out of the husband or wife who is completely eligible to take him as a dependent, that we discuss now. Time test. One is time test. Who is spending more time with the child is qualified to take him as a dependent. In case of diverse kid, who is going to spend time with the child, that is more criteria to identify me as a dependent. In case if both are staying, in case if both parents are staying with the kid in equal time, then you have to apply on the AGA, means income text. Who is having more income, he is eligible to take. Who is having more income, he or she is eligible. Only when the time test fails, means time test is equal. First criteria, who is spending more time with child is child is primary. If that is not, if that is going to be equal, then you have to apply on the AGA, that is income test. Who is having more income, he is eligible to take him as a dependent. And there is one option to give the right to claim him as a dependent to other spouse, that is also available. If someone as per the test above, it is going to be he is eligible to take husband is eligible to take him as a dependent, but he has the right to give that claim to the wife with the form 8332. Even though they have the right, they can provide this form and say that I am giving my right to the other spouse. Can provide claim to other spouse. Who is providing support for the child is not a relevant factor. So if someone is spending more time with the child and he's not giving any support, he's just providing the child care, but he is not able to give the money wise support, that is not a relevant parameter. So in divorced case, only two conditions are applied, that is time test. If time test is equal, then you have to go for the income test. That is the only parameter you have to see. And if someone has the right to claim him as a dependent, they can provide that claim to the other spouse with the form 8332. This is the main thing. Okay. Okay. Now I am going to the next one. Mutual support agreement. Mutual support agreement. What does it mean? In case of parents, there is a chance of giving the support by more number of peoples. So the thing is that 50% of support can be provided by many people. So in that case, how to choose or who are eligible for to take here parents as a dependent, that we can see based on the conditions below. In case of mutual support agreement, if a parent is provided support with multiple members who are eligible to claim him as a dependent, or we have to see who provides more than 10% of support. All those members are eligible to claim them as a dependent, but only one person can take the uh, that claim. So for that they have to enter into a mutual support agreement with all other people who provides more than 10% support, then they can claim as dependent. This is about MSA. Okay.